idea. I will find him!
You're a breed. Men are brave.
Not about deserve. It's about what you believe.
Could've just peed on him.
Like brunch. Like, what is brunch?
The story of the Defiance is well known.
What, we some kind of suicide squad?
Heroes don't kill people.
Well, I do.
Martha!
Hello everyone and welcome back to Enter the SnyderVerse. This is it. This is the big week, the week that this has all been building up to, though not the end of the show.
No, still only about halfway through somehow.
Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm one of your hosts, I'm Nathan. Our other hosts we're joined by?
I'm Kyle. I'm currently off-world right now, but I am calling in via a strange sort of obelisk that morphs into my shape. That's how we're recording today.
I couldn't believe I got one. They're very hard to find on eBay.
They're very hard to find, but they do have a great connection, you know?
Absolutely wonderful. They require 3 very powerful cubes, though, to operate.
Do they? No, because he communicates when only one cube is in. So.
Well, yeah, you get a better resolution. It's like
I see. Okay,
it's like contributing to a Discord server.
It's like plugging in more RAM.
Yeah, the more you fit in, the more powerful it becomes. It can go longer distances, you know.
It couldn't actually have shown the full dark side until he had the 2 cubes in there.
Yeah, absolutely. See, he just got Desad, his lackey, at first. You know, you need 2 cubes to warrant a dark side. That's the exchange rate. This is it, Kyle. We're here.
This is it. Hashtag release the SnyderCut.
Hashtag release the SnyderCut, Kyle. This has been kind of, when we first came up with the semi-joke idea to do this show, like, this is kind of the thing that I was always hoping we would get to. Like, I knew we would get to it, but this is it. Because I when this came out, I remember there was no way in hell you were going to watch this. No way. 4 hours, are you kidding me? But we've done it. I'm giddy because
we sure have.
It's great. So, this is your first time with this, yeah?
Nathan. Of course it is. Yes.
Yeah, I'm always going to ask, Kyle. I'm always going to ask. Right, okay. So I first
You didn't see this one in cinemas, though, because it didn't come out in cinemas, did it?
Oh, absolutely not. We were all locked in our hazmat chambers.
That's true. This is prime COVID time.
This is 2021, yeah. This is right in the swing of things. We can maybe talk about that's how it's led to its release. But I stayed up for its release. It came out, I think, at 10 a.m. or something, and I watched it. I ordered Domino's at the halfway point, and I took a little break after chapter 4. I remember Zack Snyder said, watch it in one sitting if you're hardcore, but if you want a break, end of chapter 4, peak break time, right? So that's when I went to the bathroom and I ordered my pizza, and then when the food showed up I resumed the film. So that was maybe 20 minutes of pause, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Terrific. I own this on physical media. I donated to the suicide prevention charity that was set up for the sort of campaign leading up to the film, because that's one of the kind of core backings to this film. And I got a SnyderCut hoodie, and it's got 3 logos on each arm for each hero. And it says Zack Snyder's Justice League on the chest, and it's really cool. And I believe I'm some sort of associate producer on the film as a result. Uncredited, of course.
What you're saying is this is your fault.
Yeah. Yeah. I am the shadowy cabal financer of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yeah, so this is all my fault. I'm the hack. And you know what, Kyle? I'm happy that I was the hack. I love this film, Kyle. I think that it's not a good commercial product for any sort of theatrical release. I think, to be honest with you, I think everyone knows that. I think this film should be judged not as some sort of commercial release, and definitely as some sort of culmination of a fan desire and movement, because everyone kind of knew Zack Snyder was out at this point, you know? And this is his big goodbye, and it's, you know, this is a separate thing, but it's obviously a tribute to his daughter as well, for the tragedy he went through that led to him leaving the film initially in the first place. And I think this film's just a great celebration of Zack Snyder's tenure and legacy on the franchise. But of course, that doesn't mean that it needs to be universally praised, Kyle, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Okay. Nathan, I'm very happy that you enjoyed this.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Is this better than the Justice League? Yes, obviously. I'm not going to dispute that.
We got one.
Yes. I will even go as far to say that of the 3 Snyder films we've watched, I think this is the best one. I think it's better than Man of Steel, and I think it's better than Batman v Superman.
Right, okay.
Which you do not disagree with, I'm sure.
No, I don't disagree with you at all.
I know you do. You do disagree because Man of Steel's your favourite.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry, I apologise. Yes, I think after watching this last night, though, maybe I'm reassessing things. I just love this film so much. But again, I think Man of Steel is it's a more traditional kind of commercial business release film, and then this sort of feels like something else. I feel like this could be only sort of in terms of peerage, it could only really be compared with Justice League, you know, whereas this feels just like it transcends traditional film.
But I think I enjoyed watching Justice League more because Justice League was a train wreck, whereas this is very competently made, and it's just doing things that I don't enjoy.
Right, okay.
Like, we've watched 3 Snyder films now, and I can sufficiently say that I just do not care for him as a filmmaker. I'm sorry. I don't like his interpretations of the characters. I don't care for his visual style. I don't care for his way of writing dialogue. None of it works for me, and it just makes this a very tedious watch for me, especially since it's 4 hours long. It's so long. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's certainly 4 hours long, isn't it?
There is a certain point where you talk about, like, oh, this is never be a commercial release, and I agree, but at a certain point of my notes, I did just start taking notes of scenes that I would cut for a theatrical release.
Yes, absolutely you did.
And
I think is a legitimate way to view this film from, like, a critic's perspective.
And it honestly, it made me understand a lot of the Justice League's cuts a lot more. Like, we talked about how Cyborg really got the short end of the straw in that cut.
Yes, absolutely.
And watching all of his scenes in the movie, it's like, okay, these are good scenes, but I also get why they were cut, because they contribute little to the plot of the movie.
Well, I think sometimes you do need to invest in your characters, and quite literally, you can not for like every scene. You could say, well, all of these scenes aren't contributing much to the overall arc of the film, but they invest time in the character, which I think is valuable time spent. Now,
yes, well, that gets into the bigger problem of they shouldn't have introduced Cyborg in this movie.
Yeah, they shouldn't have introduced any of the characters they introduced in this film.
Yes.
You know. But that's, as I think we spoke about with Batman vs Superman, that's like a studio sort of directive. That's just, they wanted to rush us here, and as a filmmaker, you've got to somehow fit all this in. And as much as you could maybe cut a couple of the scenes that lead to, you know, sinking time into the characters, you got to keep some, or else you don't have character. Even if you only keep one of them. Because obviously they still have character development in the group scenes. No, I'm not saying that the characters don't, but all these scenes are just great. And, you know, filmmakers always talk about they hate editing because they love all the scenes, and it requires a really disciplined hand to make the decision to cut a scene. This film clearly has none of that discipline because it has everything in it.
Every single second of footage they shot is in this movie.
Right? I know, I actually believe after the film came out, we heard that there was some stuff that he did still cut.
I'm sure.
Like, you still got to have some stuff. So when I go through this film, I can totally see, oh, you can cut that, you can cut that, you can cut that. But I think even in theatrical releases of films, there's still scenes you could cut, but there's a reason it's in there for things like character time, you know? So, I mean, I really think Cyborg got the real harsh end of the straw with Justice League, which led to the whole bunch of, you know, Ray Fisher and his outrage with Walter Hamada and the big Warner Brothers investigation. You know, certain things that happened to him behind the scenes on the reshoots that led to the Justice League. He just has nothing to do, you know?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think this movie uses all of the characters better than Justice League does. In the final fight, they all have something to do, which our joke when we were talking about Justice League was Superman just comes in and does everything by himself.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, he probably still could have done in this movie, but it's shot in a way that it doesn't seem like that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's in a way that actually powers up the other heroes. So it's not necessarily that Superman is any form of, like, powered down. He's still incredibly competent and able to solo all this. but the other characters don't feel so helpless before he arrives. Because I
Yes.
think an easy, cheap trick to make Superman feel powerful is just to debuff everyone else, which is a discredit to the other characters. Whereas this
like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, they're doing pretty good against Steppenwolf before he shows up.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually think in the end they probably could have defeated them without Superman.
Yeah, potentially.
I think maybe his biggest assist is helping with the really sort of weighing him down, you know? He's of equal value to the team, you know?
Mhm.
So where do we want to start, Kyle? Because that's just sort of a broad overview of this.
I mean...
Do you want to talk about
guess-
scenes you were surprised were not in this film?
Scenes I was surprised weren't in this film.
Yeah, like you watched this and thought, oh, that was from the Justice League? I thought that would have been part of the original shoot, you know? Like in the Justice League, there's that rooftop scene with the mother boxes of Batman and Gotham City.
Oh, I wasn't surprised at all that wasn't in this movie. the one that looks like he was shot on, like, in a cupboard.
Stage, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously that was a reshoot, and it just shoots 3 boxes on a wall. I do think it is weird that in this cut, Batman doesn't know about Steppenwolf when he's trying to set up the Justice League. He's just sort of doing it.
Well, he's doing it because of the Flash time traveling in his vision in Batman vs Superman. He knows something's coming.
Is that the reason?
Yeah,
I thought it was to do with Lex Luthor.
I mean, probably a combination of the both, but remember Flash says Lois is the key, Lois Lane, and now Superman's dead, so he very grief-stricken, guilt-stricken that he may have killed the great defender of Earth because, you know, he snaps and suddenly loves Superman.
Yes.
And now he's dedicating himself to sort of Age of Ultroning Tony Stark, you know, a suit of armour around the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows there's some sort of nebulous threat, but he doesn't know the specifics of it, you know, which I think is perfectly fine. And then it's really not until Diana comes and briefs him that maybe he starts to think that this threat is already here.
Yeah, I guess. I feel like it flows a little better within the movie if he already knows about that. And that's why he's assembling a team.
I think that helps to create some sense of urgency. But
yes,
we ain't doing anything urgently in this film because we have 4 hours,
that's
baby.
for sure. I think, like, there's a lot of stuff in this movie, Nathan.
Oh yeah.
We open with the end of BVS with Superman dying, and his screams like echo around the world and trigger the mother boxes, and that's a whole thing. But the passage of time on that is a bit nebulous.
I mean, you're just sort of seeing sound waves boom in different environments, you know? I don't think all those interaction scenes necessarily need to be in sequential order, but you just need to display it somehow.
Yeah, but this is set like a few months after BVS, I assume, or like a year. I have no idea when this is set.
It's set somewhat soon after, I think. I think Superman's not been dead for long, and Lois Lane isn't showing her pregnancy bump. So we're a month or so.
Yeah, I guess.
She's pregnant, Kyle. Did you see that coming?
Yeah, I saw the pregnancy test in the drawer, and I'm like, oh, very subtle, Zack Snyder, very subtle.
And we have an 80-yard line of Bruce Wayne saying to Clark Kent, congratulations, by the way.
See, that could also be interpreted as them getting married, so...
True, yes, but she was holding a baby bassinet as she walked into the Kent family home.
Because I guess she's moving to Smallville now. She has become a mother, which means she can no longer work.
Well, she can work from home. You know, she gets out of the big city, she can raise her kid in some wide open space, and you know Zack Snyder likes his traditional family stuff.
I mean, she's an investigative reporter who travels the world, though.
That's, well, you know, see, when you're pregnant, you might want to take some time out to recuperate and bond with your soon-to-be-born child, you know?
Are they living with Martha Kent also, by the way?
She's getting on. She needs some help around the house, right?
I don't think that's true. She seems fine.
Yeah, but maybe not in a few years. Maybe she's in, like, her last great...
Also, are they going to start farming, or are they just living in a farmhouse with, like, dead crops all around it? I mean, the crops aren't dead. The crops are growing. Someone is farming that land.
Yeah, they look quite lush. Maybe she's got farm hands, you know?
I mean, she's losing the farm, though. And she works in a diner.
Turning a profit, Kyle. It wasn't turning a profit. She was doing a bad job managing it. Martha Kent is also a really crippling gambler.
I see. Okay. It all makes sense now.
It all makes sense now. Also cutscenes from the Snyder Cut. There's just scenes of Martha Kent in a casino.
Well, to be fair, when when she says she's losing the farm, that's not actually Martha Kent, so who knows?
Well, yes, that is not Martha Kent, but we do see the foreclosure sign outside the home.
Yes, that's true.
Do we want to talk about that? That gorgeous
Martian
scene that's much better than the Justice League version?
I mean, it's better than the Justice League version, obviously. The fact that it's Martian Manhunter makes the whole scene so bizarre, though.
It makes the... Yeah, so I understand the line in the hallway of Martian Manhunter trying to get Lois Lane to return to society for some reason. Because if that was always Martian Manhunter, because that's the character from Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel,
yes,
they
the
do
General
have
Man, yes.
they do have some sort of relationship. But I still think that if you cut that scene, it's much more impactful. Or you cut that, it's not even a scene, it's just that
end of the scene. Yes.
Yeah, a moment in the hallway. I get that there'd been a lot of fan speculation if that was going to end up being the DCEU Martian Manhunter, because the character is Martian Manhunter in the comics, but the previous films
they could have just revealed it at the end.
I completely agree with you. I think
it's weird too, because that character has nothing else to do in this movie. He's not like... There's not any scenes of the military reacting to this stuff or anything. That's the only scene he's in the movie. Absolutely.
And I don't even think that's a reshoot, because we should know... Zack Snyder did add stuff for this through COVID.
Yes, I'm aware. All of the apocalypse stuff at the end is obviously redone.
I don't think he still looks better than the rooftop scene with the mother box splatter.
Well, yes.
Which is crazy. I think Zack Snyder's a very pretty filmmaker. I don't think all these films are great. Like, I think Rebel Moon Part 1 is awful. But I think that he always is a filmmaker with a very strong artistic style, and I think that the Nightmare stuff looks gorgeous.
I agree.
The fact that he'd done that in his
driveway.
The fact that he'd done that in his driveway is just magnificent.
He did that in his driveway?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't understand how that works at all.
I don't either, but that's the story. I'm pretty sure there's footage of like him in like a driveway in Hollywood somewhere with like the Joker sitting on a car, like a big green screen behind him. Obviously, they had pretty good light blockers for the sun, but I think they shot that all outside. That's not done on like a soundstage somewhere. They didn't do that in like a Hollywood film lot.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so Martian Manhunter appearing is a bit kind of odd. If he showed up at the very end of the film to speak to Bruce Wayne, that'd have been fine. But that's like your Nick Fury moment. Yeah, that's your Justice League Part 2, you know?
Yeah.
But showing up at the end of that scene between Martha and Lois is just mind-boggling. Like, see, I love this film, but Kyle, I'll concede these points. You know, I'm a reasonable fan. You know, okay. I like Zack Snyder. I like this film, but I don't worship at his feet.
I suppose I'd be remiss if I don't point out that while I was watching this movie, I was also being harassed by a bunch of gamer bros in my comments. So I was not in a great headspace while watching this. That's probably worth pointing out.
Oh yeah, Kyle released a YouTube video during this. I think personally, you should have put the window down, Kyle. You should have silenced the screen.
Well, that's easy to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it's easy to say. But you know what? We make our decisions, Kyle. So do you think maybe you're in a more positive headspace now that you're away from it?
I mean, yes. I still don't think I like the movie, but...
That's fair. What do you think of the little musical vignettes?
Little musical vignettes.
So, for instance, 16 minutes into the film, we get our first song of this jukebox, and that is when Lois Lane comes out of the coffee shop. We get Zack Snyder in the window, Kyle. He's a customer, and she's walking with her coffee cups to the Superman memorial, and she's giving coffee to the cops. And it's just this gorgeous, self-indulgent, slow-mo rain fest of her with watered-down flowers with an umbrella. Or when Aquaman jumps into the ocean, and I think a Leonard Cohen song's playing, and it's not the rock bullshit from Justice League, you know?
It's a very different vibe for Aquaman in this movie.
He's not a surfer dude, he's just an immigrant in Iceland.
Okay. I mean, they're fine. They're very Zack Snyder. I don't know what to tell you.
I think they're gorgeous.
There's a lot of... pretty much every scene of Lois Lane in this movie is just... Lois Lane is sad. Yep. Got it. Understood. You can cut half of these scenes and I'll still get the point that Lois Lane is sad.
Yeah, yeah.
I think keep that musical montage, cut the scene where she's just sitting on the floor being sad. Don't need that.
Yeah. Is that how you're going to analyse this? Just snip, 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 running around with a pair of scissors, cutting vines?
Absolutely.
What'd you think of the spooky Icelandic singing as Aquaman silently disappears?
I'm sure it's very poignant and relevant if you know what they're saying, but I don't. So it's
I
just
watched
very
this
strange.
with the subtitles on, and in the subtitles it just says "women singing in Icelandic."
Well, that's very helpful.
Very helpful, isn't it? Yeah. So I didn't even know that, just because I don't know much about the Icelandic language, I've never been there. I didn't know they were speaking Icelandic if it wasn't for the subtitles.
Well, I guess that's good. You got some information out of it.
I did. It was very useful.
That entire exchange between Batman and Aquaman is much edgier in this version. This movie is a lot edgier than the Justice League.
Yeah, well, I would say the Justice League is just a kids' club's version of this film. This is R-rated, Kyle. This is a 15.
I know, Batman says fuck at some point, so that's very exciting.
It is, I clapped.
Nathan, I don't like it. I don't like that it's more edgy. I don't know what to say. You say the other versions of Kids Club, I prefer a little bit more lightheartedness in my superhero movies. That's the truth of the matter.
I'm not a fussy eater when it comes to this kind of content, and I think that because there's less of this in the market, I value it more when it comes along. It makes more sense, Kyle, why is horse riding in this film. They actually take time to...
Does it?
Yes. So they say that helicopters have been grounded for 6 days because of the snowstorm. Like, no one can get to this little town. They specifically mention that as a line of dialogue in the film.
Okay, I missed that. Fair enough.
They said boats haven't been able to get into the harbour, and the snowstorm...
Okay, wait, there's a snowstorm and boats and planes, but horses, they're not going to freeze to death in a blizzard. That's perfectly fine.
Maybe
Is it a special bat horse?
It's a bat horse, yes, Kyle. It was black. I mean, it didn't look too bad on the ground level, Kyle. It just maybe it's higher up in the clouds that it messes with equipment and makes it unsafe.
Sure,
and then the bay is frozen, you know? So I personally, I'm fine with it. And then he goes back to a safer spot and he helicopters back to the landing strip where he can fly home with Alfred. And I have in my notes here that Bruce jumps out of that helicopter before it lands on the ground because he's so cool, but he shouldn't be giving away his League of Shadows training just so obviously to people around, you know?
I mean, it's the same as in the Justice League where Aquaman's just like, what are you up to, Batman? In front of all these Icelandic villagers.
They're nothing. They don't know anything, Kyle. They're out in the middle of nowhere. They're not going to go with the press. The press can't get to them,
sure,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, Barry Allen still doesn't know who Bruce Wayne is, so maybe Bruce Wayne's not that famous outside of Gotham City.
Maybe after the burning down of Wayne Manor, he became like a hermit. Yeah, no one knows who he is anymore. Like, the social elite know who he is. That's why he gets invited to Lex Luthor's party, but Joe Average has no clue.
Yeah, he's no Elon Musk, you know? He's not a household name.
He is no Elon Musk, that's very true. What do you think of the aspect ratio, Kyle?
I think it's pretentious. That's what I think.
You think it's pretentious. I quite enjoy it. Like, as it is an artistic decision, obviously. I got the meme at the start of this film. I've never watched my physical media edition of this film before until right now. I'd always just watched it on streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And on streaming, when it first came out, we never got the HBO Max, you know, this is 4:3 to keep in mind with the artist's original intention thing.
Yeah.
But it's on the disc. So I had a little chuckle to myself as it came on.
Well, there's no way in hell this movie would have been released in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
No, absolutely not. But if you're giving Zack Snyder Final Cut, you know, like, he's just doing bits at that point, you know?
To me, it made the whole... Because Nathan, we watch a lot of Star Trek.
We watch a hell of a lot of Star Trek, yeah.
And something about the aspect ratio and the specific, like... There's like a... He has like a filter on the lens or the color grading or something that gives the whole thing this like hyper real look that just makes it look like a 90s TV show, and I don't know any other way to describe it.
I don't think it looks like that at all. I hope that it's our lack of vocabulary that is aiding in our mismatch of sensations here, because I think the film looks great. Now, I agree there's no way this would be 4:3 in the cinema, right? It's more akin with the 70mm IMAX projection in terms of its height, which frankly I think is really interesting. Again, not seeing this as like a commercial release, I can sort of just appreciate the creative decision, and I think that it does make everything look taller because you've got more headroom. I mentioned it in my notes when Wonder Woman throws the suitcase up in the air. It's a much more impressive shot because you keep everything in. because yes, it might be more stunted left and right. I think the reason Zack Snyder actually gave for the 4x3 is because he likes to see, these heroes as like godlike. He thinks having them fully displayed in like a tall staturist stance just makes them visually look more impressive. So making top and bottom space is just better to look at for these heroes, which is something I've never particularly noticed watching any Marvel film. But like I do see it, and again, because I happen to like Zack Snyder's direction in these films, I do just enjoy it. I don't really think when I watch Batman vs Superman that everyone looks short and stumpy. But
I mean, look, I'm going to say something maybe controversial. I don't like cinematic aspect ratio, and I've never liked it. The long like bar.
Right. Okay.
I don't know. It feels like I've never really understood the purpose of it.
I think it's because it makes like the screen seem wider. Like it feels like you get more scope left to right, almost like it's wrapping around you. If you don't like cinematic bars, though, however, the Avengers 2012 Blu-ray is a 2K. And it's a really nice 2K. It actually looks really good, and it has.
Yeah, I think that's the version on Disney Plus as well.
It's still fully cinematic, and it has no black bars, and it's just screen to screen. I do not know enough about cameras and filming cinematography to explain why that's the case, but it's a really nice looking film, Avengers 2012. Like, it absolutely terrific.
I am a proponent of, if you have the full screen, use the full screen.
Well, that's because that's the thing with aspect ratios. They would always get the widescreen editions of VHS and DVDs back in the day, because people thought, why are there black bars? And it's because if you zoom in
that's silly, because
if you zoom in to crop out the black bars, you're cutting off other parts of the film,
Yeah, I'm a video editor. I understand this. You have to shoot in full screen to get a full screen movie.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm glad that we're not talking about different things.
Yeah, look, Nathan, I crop most of my videos to be full screen because it keeps it more consistent. So yeah, I crop it. When I'm editing videos about the Clone Wars, I'm cropping out half the frame every single time.
I do think sometimes you look like those clone helmets look a little bit big. Yeah, I mean, so me and you both know why that's a thing, I don't mind the black bars. I do kind of think that it does make the screen feel wider, which is definitely because action usually goes left to right on a screen, it doesn't usually go up and down. But if you're filming characters that fly up, a little bit more vertical headroom is a bit more impressive.
I guess it is what it is. The movie was clearly shot with it in mind, and you can tell that. Yes, because of the way things are framed in a more vertical way.
I think it's because it was shot for IMAX, so that's something that you'll end up getting.
Yeah, I suppose.
Not that obviously all IMAXs don't always project like that, but I love looking at those screen comparisons where people like screen grab like an IMAX shot and then they put like a blue bar for what it would look like in a more traditional aspect ratio, and you see how much is getting cut off. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I saw one for Dune 2 recently, just because Dune is out and that's the talk of the town. And it is like, that's a visually impressive film, and when you see it in a regular format, it's just, that's quite a bit that's getting cut off actually. Like, there's something about the scale and the scope is lost. And I'm somebody who, I think I've spoken about this before, with like kaiju films, like Pacific Rim or Godzilla. I love that feeling of weight and scope of everything, I like a director, Denis Villeneuve does this with Dune, that can really show just the gravitas of an object. Which is also why I like Zack Snyder, because I think he really brings weight to these characters. He doesn't make them feel like Disney, Mickey Mouse people. I don't mind quips, but sometimes I think other films do too many. Which I know you're fine with, and broadly speaking, so am I. But I like a little bit of gravity that this has got.
Well, Nathan, I'm a paid Disney shell, obviously.
No, you are. You're in for that ESG money. You are, absolutely. We should have full transparency here. I'm a Snyder shill, and you're a Disney shill. I paid for this film myself.
You did, yes.
And you...
I think that makes you the opposite of a shill, actually.
Well, I'm a shill for Zack Snyder, clearly, I'm a secret, shadowy funder of him.
Yes.
Anything he puts out, I just bend over for, clearly. Whereas you
didn't. It's not like you said earlier that his most recent film is crap.
No, I never said that. I don't know whatever you're talking about. Revelman is a masterpiece. Part 2 coming in April. I'll be there day one, Netflix. So let's get back on track, shall we?
Okay, sure.
So we get Steppenwolf. What do we think of Steppenwolf when he robs the Themyscira? You know, he's got a very different look, and that scene is somewhat more extended.
Okay. Is the design better? Yes. Obviously, the design in Justice League is the hot garbage.
PS3 character.
PS3, I would even go as far as to say PS2 character. Let's be real.
Whoa, controversial, Kyle.
No, that's not fair. It does look better than a PS2 game. But PS3, yeah. I still don't like the design. I think he has like a weird, like, squishy face, and he just doesn't look very threatening.
So this is the design that we see in the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs Superman. So this was always what we were intended to get, which I know you know. I know that's not necessarily what you're commenting on. But for me, it was nice. Like, you see at the start of this film, when we're in the little prologue sequence with Jesse Eisenberg in the goop, and he's talking to Steppenwolf, that's all from BVS. Well, the cameras are different, like it's not that exact scene, but that's the situation he's in that was cut from the theatrical release, you know? I just love this look, Kyle. I think that, like, it's so designed. I like that all the sort of shards on his armor sort of flow the one direction. Like, it's visually pleasing to look at. And then when he's in combat mode, like, it spikes out to, you know, defend himself. Or, like, when the dark side shows up and he becomes submissive, the armor sort of nanotechs down on him. Just tremendous. When the Amazonians shoot him with the arrows, the armor sort of snaps the arrows in two when they're sticking into him. I think it's just great. Like, he's got the big hooves instead of just man feet. He's got like 6 fingers on his big hand. It's monstrous. I love the blue glowing eyes he gets in the third act for some reason.
Yeah, that's not explained at all.
No, it's just Uber. I'm Uber Darkseid now.
Yeah, he's gone Super Saiyan.
Yeah, he's gone Super Saiyan. Like, I don't care. Like, it's just a wonderful visual piece. I like the big horns, because the horns, I think, in the other one just looked like they could be just part of his helmet, like Loki.
This is the problem with us talking about this, because I'm listening to all you saying, and the only response I can say is, I disagree. I think he looks a bit silly. And, like, that's not a very valid criticism to make. It's just, it's purely...
It's just aesthetic preferences.
Personal preference, yeah.
Yeah. I
think he has, like, weird, like, sad, silly-looking eyes that make him look very unthreatening and like a big puppy.
I do think he has a little squishy face. I would agree with you, but I just think that the whole design just comes together great. Like, it is a really small face and that big armor, but it just doesn't bother me. A bit how, like, when I'm saying how much I like it and your only response is to say, I just think it looks silly. I can't really disagree with that thing you've just said about the face looking small. But then my retort is sort of uninsightful, and just to go, I kind of like it. But wonderful design. And
I did notice that in this cut, so in the original cut where Steppenwolf is the main bad guy, he has that speech where he's like, and you will all love me, and all that nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Which, again, it's funnier to watch, but it's obviously worse. In this version, he's basically Hordak from She-Ra. That's my take on him.
I don't know
which
who
you've
that
never
is.
Watched. Hordak is the main bad guy of She-Ra. He was exiled to this planet because he disappointed the Horde Prime.
Right, okay.
And he's trying to get back in his good graces by conquering this planet. It's basically exactly the same as this movie.
Okay. Definitely gone over my head. I would have more put it in akin to, like, the Silver Surfer and Fantastic Four 2 Rise of the Silver Surfer.
She-Ra is great. You should watch She-Ra.
There's lots of things I should watch.
I know.
I'm well behind on animes and such.
I mean, to be fair, we're doing this because I'm well behind on all these movies. So
That's fair. Do you want to do a She-Ra show next?
I would love that, honestly. But...
Oh, how would you break up that show, Kyle?
I guess by season, right?
By season? Okay. It's coming in 2025, audience.
No, don't promise that. We're not going to do that.
What do we think of the Amazonian scene, Kel? Because we spent a little bit of time with Steppenwolf. Instead of just the cool horse chase, which I still think is cool, the entire temple sinks into the ocean.
Makes way more sense.
Great, right on a cliff edge, like it's meant to be some
that
sort
was,
of Faraday
That was the
cage.
comment, and it's like a response to something I said in that original video, which is all of the bad guys can fly and there's a hole in the roof, so it doesn't matter if you close the door. If it sinks into the ocean, it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, terrific. Absolutely just amazing. I love that entire sequence. That's a really big VFX shot. Some of the criticism of Justice League was like, why did they reshoot these scenes? This doesn't make any sense. Why did they change Steppenwolf's design? a lot of the VFX shots were already completed before the reshoots. So
Yeah, I can't. I have no idea why they changed Stephanov's design. Not a clue.
but and you could see
I
like
guess they wanted they wanted like a more human-looking villain. Is the best way I can
they
think
thought
of
we
it.
couldn't relate to the big silver man
Yeah,
with the
something
puppy
like
eyes.
that. That's the only possible rationale I can think of.
Possibly. And then like they cut the temple sinking into the water because they're trying to speed up the runtime. But it's a big visual set piece that sort of makes the scene.
Yeah.
Like it makes the film more interesting to view. It's very, very strange. But yeah, it's great. I'm happy that the things that you're standing out as liking are things that for some reason was cut.
Yeah, look, I did say this is better. There's a couple scenes. There's like one or two scenes that I can remember from the Justice League where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of upset that that's not in it. Like the scene where Aquaman is sitting on the lasso of truth. I think that's a fun little scene.
Just yapping, yeah.
Yeah. I think this movie is lacking some of that like
Levity.
Whedon-esque.
Oh right, okay. The bits.
Whedon-esque like bits that kind of help the characters bond more. Like there's the scene where they're digging up Clark Kent's body, right?
Yeah.
And it's Cyborg and Flash. And in the original, and not the original, but in the Justice League, they have a little exchange about how they're like the accidents or something like that.
Yes.
And that's like them bonding. And then this one is just like, hey, do you think Wonder Woman would date me? And it's like, that feels more like a Whedon line, quite frankly.
Yeah, suppose so. I think this film has lots of good sort of character arcs for the individuals. This definitely does feel like they still don't know each other too well, but this is them coming together, you know? Maybe they would get more fleshed out in a sequel. Like, Cyborg has the line about not being broken when he's speaking to the mother boxes. He's accepted who he is. You know, he was hiding away and hated himself. He wished he'd never been brought back to life by the mother boxes.
That's a cut that I think shouldn't have been made. I think that's a better scene.
Without a doubt, a much better scene. Maybe they were a bit confused as to mother boxes having personalities. Because they're like, you know, the three witches of Silver and Macbeth. You know?
I mean, I have questions about the mother boxes, okay?
And
the biggest one is, we're jumping all around. That's just going to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're not very kind of ordered, structured people. I wish we were. No. I wish we were. We have everything chaptered in our notes here. We're just not doing it.
No, we never do. But more than halfway through the movie, Steppenwolf discovers that the anti-life equation is hidden on Earth.
Yep.
And he excitedly reports this to Darkseid, and the entire time I'm thinking, how does Darkseid not already know this?
Yep, I agree.
Surely, once you know the mother boxes are on Earth, you know that the anti-life equation is on Earth as well, because it's the same planet where you lost the mother boxes, right?
I'm pretty sure
he
would know everything.
Even if for whatever reason you don't remember which planet it was, he would still put that together.
Maybe it's feasible that other space aliens could have stolen the mother boxes to other planets, you know? Because lanterns were there, you know? Like, Earth was known to extraterrestrials.
That lantern sucked. He went out like a chump.
So did the other lantern. He got killed by Superman. Did you notice that other lantern later on in the nightmare bit? He had like a more traditional Green Lantern outfit on, like with the white stripes and the black tights.
I didn't notice that, I'll be honest.
He's a more kind of, you know, Power Rangers spandex outfit on when he's lying dead in the rubble of the Justice League HQ. Whereas I
think big CGI Professor Lupin is very funny, by the way.
Did you like seeing him? Did you like seeing Ares again, Kyle? Because you can't really tell
I did.
It's just Justice League, you know?
I did, but it's just so weird to see because he's normally like this like slender, posh British man, and he's like this big, like bald, jacked up guy, and it's very bizarre.
It's very bizarre, isn't it? But I thought this film was a great sort of cap. It brought everything back together that was pre-Justice League, you know? Robin Wright's in it. I know she was technically in the Justice League as well. You get a lot more stuff with... Yeah, see that scene where like the Amazonian army are all lined up in their flashback ready to do battle? She's in there, but she's just sort of sitting on a horse next to the Queen.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, whereas in this, she's still probably not really doing much. Like that's not.
No, really I don't think she has a voice line.
Yeah, she doesn't have a voice line, but she's more sort of visually prominent, I would say. I think this film does give all the characters full respect. Nobody gets shortchanged. When we're speaking about Cyborg saying he's not broken, we also get the Flash at the end when he's sort of speaking to himself, when he's doing his big standout Oscar crowd pleaser moment. He's like, I want my dad to know that I was one of these people. I didn't waste my life because his dad was talking about how you need to get a real job and sort of make something of yourself. He's like, I'm doing it, this is me, I'm embracing it. I'm being the hero, Terrific. He isn't just like the butt of the joke where Superman can save more Russian families, Kyle.
I can't believe we cut the Russian family.
You couldn't tell they were reshoots.
That was critical to the movie.
The pivotal moment of the movie, yes, where the Flash saves a little pickup truck of a family and Superman carries a building.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
Absolutely essential stuff.
Absolutely essential viewing. Well, whilst we're on side characters like Russian families, why don't we talk about Howard, the janitor?
Oh, of course, our favourite. He was in the Justice League as well.
He was in the Justice League as well, yeah. I feel like he's more of a character in this, though.
I mean...
In the last one, he just sort of goes, we have families. And Steppenwolf goes, why does everyone keep telling me you have families? Blah.
Okay, I mean, really, we should talk about Miles Dyson, who gets much more play in this than he does in the Justice League.
Silas
Stone, yes.
Yeah. SS.
In my notes, I just keep calling him Miles Dyson because he's basically playing the same character that he was in
Yeah,
Terminator 2.
Fair enough. AI, cybernetics, man, yeah.
I think his death in this is stupid. I'm just going to say that. It's just so dumb.
You don't think heat tagging the mother box because of that earlier scene where they say that they can superheat the internals of the Kryptonian technology, makes sense?
Is that what he was doing?
Yeah,
I thought he was just trying to destroy it.
No. So that's what we think he's trying to do in that scene. But then see when Cyborg and such walk in after he's dead and Darkseid ran away with the mother box, they're talking, and then they're saying that the laser beam superheats the internals of the metal, which is what we established earlier on with John Cho, who's plays Atom if this universe were to have continued, and they talk about how the Kryptonian tech and the mother boxes are very different, but they're sort of similar. They're very different to our technology, but they're sort of similar at their own level. And when they shoot a laser in it, it superheats the center of it to be like the hottest thing on Earth, and it makes it very distinct to satellites. And then Batman says, I can tag it with mine. Then the Flash is like, you have satellites? And Batman says, I have 6. That's because the heat signature that this is now giving off will pop out.
Okay. Here's what I say.
Yeah.
Cut all of that. You don't need any of that. There's a big giant orange ball in Russia. It's not that hard to find.
Well, that's what he's hiding in toxic wasteland, Kels. It's interfering with your cameras. You can't just see it in there. He's hiding.
It's a giant, glowy, big orange cocoon. I don't care how, messed up your satellite cameras are being.
I personally buy it. If you're trying to speed up the film, Kyle, you could just have it so that's not a problem. I agree with you. He's hiding in a radiation-infested space, but the cameras can still see it. We cut it and we move on, right? All I'm saying is, it makes sense, right? Silas, self-sacrifices, heat tagging the mother box for the Justice League to find at a later date. I don't think the sacrifice is silly.
I do. I think I didn't need to watch this man melt in this movie. I just...
It's for Cyborg, it's for him, Kyle.
I realise that. I think I understand his whole, learning to love his father dynamic or whatever. But
he reassembles the Sony tape recorder in 2017.
I think if you're picking a plot for Cyborg in this movie, the coming to terms with what he is more interesting than the coming to terms with his dad plot. I would focus more on the former and leave the latter.
I agree. But we're doing that, cut down to be a commercial product thing. You're doing that, and I'm doing this is what we've got.
I'm just trying to make this into a cohesive movie, which this is not. And I know you're saying it shouldn't be viewed as that, but what else am I supposed to... I want to view it as an entertaining product.
I do think it's an entertaining product. It's like if you sit and binge watch a 6-episode Netflix series, which people do.
Yes, I know. Okay. Let's stay on. Let's do this character by character. We're 45 minutes into this recording. Let's find a structure, shall we?
I agree, Phil. I agree. I'm going to let you take the reins, okay?
So let's start with Cyborg. So I think all of the stuff that they add in this movie, apart from the Miles Dyson stuff, which we just talked about, I think is good. I like the flashback where he's like a football player and he's in the car crash. I think all of that is not strictly you don't need to see it, but it does add something to the movie to see it.
Right.
So I think cutting that was a mistake.
I mean, it's
I
very,
think
it's
all
very
the
easy
scenes
to
where
pick
he's-
out what was cut for Cyborg was a mistake, because they give him nothing. I think all of his scenes are reshoots in the Justice League.
His toes hurt, Nathan. He doesn't even know the physics of that. There's the scene where he stalks a lady on the internet. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, He just finds out about Batman because he's scrolling CCTV in the Justice League, whereas this time he knows that Diana Prince is looking for him.
Yeah, well, there's and there's the line about having a date, which was apparently not a Justice League reshoot. Amazing.
Yeah.
But the scene where he stalks that random lady and it's representative of, I don't know, something destabilizing the banks. I'm not sure.
It's a mini story about how his powers can be used to help the people that are in desperate need of help in society because he's a supercomputer.
Yeah, I guess. The visualization of those powers is a bit abstract.
Yeah. You see him transferring money from one account to another, and you see a big bull fighting a bear, which is the markets, I think. The big Wall Street bull.
Uh-huh.
I agree. I agree. It's kind of abstract, but I can make sense of it.
I mean, I can make sense of it. It's just I don't know, that specific part. I don't think is.
It's indulgent.
Entirely necessary. It's indulgent, yes. The one tiny detail that I liked that I don't understand why it was cut was the plot about how Cyborg is the one who helps fix the Bat Trip transport. I think that's just a nice little moment that I don't understand why you cut that.
Because
he's it wants to fly and all that.
Because he already fixed the Nightcrawler earlier in the film, and they thought he was going to become the team mechanic or something, which would overshadow Batman being a mechanic or something.
Even with all of this, he still kind of serves an exposition man role in this cut of the movie.
Right, okay.
Because he has a hologram on his head that just displays things for everyone.
Yeah, he's good at sort of.
He's like that guy in Inhumans that they keep in a cupboard who just shows holograms with his eyes.
He's more than that, Kyle. He's more than that. You still don't like Cyborg's design, though?
No, I still hate his design. It's just CGI nothingness.
Did you prefer at the end of Justice League where he's still alive and him and his dad are working through different designs that the nanotech of his armor can create and he becomes Iron Man for a second?
I did prefer that design, yes.
Yeah, where he's got the big laser in his chest.
Yeah, I don't care for this design. I think it could have looked really stupid, but I think I would have preferred physical prosthetics to the CGI look.
I think he would have looked like, what's his name from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Deathlock.
Deathlock, yeah. I was going to say Genlock, and I was like, that's another thing.
No, that's... rest in peace, Rooster Teeth, by the way.
Yeah, rest in peace, Rooster Teeth. We put it on record here. Looking forward to the last season of Red vs. Blue, though.
If that's still happening, question mark?
Let's hope so. Let's not get sidetracked, but let's hope so.
Look, Nathan, it's all relevant because Ruby did cross over with the DC Universe.
Oh my god, you're right, Kyle. This is all part of the plan. It's all part of James Gunn's new DCU.
Oh yeah. Frickin' Team Ruby's gonna show up in Superman Legacy.
So what you're saying
Superman
is after
now,
we
right?
speak about Watchmen at the end of all this, we need to then do a show on Ruby.
Oh god. But yeah, overall, obviously Cyborg is better in this cut of the movie, obviously.
Yes.
Batman doesn't do as much quips.
I'm fine with that.
I'm also fine with that. He doesn't change his entire body shape between cuts except at the very end when he becomes much skinnier, 5 years older, and looks like he's living through a pandemic.
I mean, because it's at the end of the film, I can believe that maybe a few months have passed and he's just so worn out after fighting a space god that he's just...
I guess. I would also say in that particular scene, though, Ben Affleck seems a bit checked out.
It's crazy that he then done his stuff for The Flash after that,
yes,
right?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
And his cut cameo from Aquaman the Lost Kingdom after this.
I mean, get that paycheck, Ben. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him, right?
I don't know. The movie makes Batman less of a joke, which I appreciate.
We're not getting the band back together, Kyle.
He does stuff in the final battle. I like that little scene where they all have their own unique way to cross a gap. I thought that was a cute little moment.
Is that not still in Justice League?
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is, but they sort of you show the Flash run across, and then they cut and they're all across.
Yeah, I think so. But you have Flash run across, then Wonder Woman jumps. Batman uses his grappling
His
hook,
batarang.
and then Cyborg flies, and it's like, hey, they all have unique skills. I get it. I understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, Batman still kills people. It's less relevant when they're like evil demons from hell. It's like whatever, right?
He kills less in this film, I would argue, though.
I would say that as well. Yes, there's the action sequence with the Batmobile is much cooler in this movie than it was before.
Yes, it's not just a red nightmare.
Yes, it's clear. It was clearly shot for nighttime, and it looks much better at nighttime.
Yeah, instead of just like a red hazy sky.
And Batman's plan makes a little bit more sense. I still don't understand why he left them all on why didn't you just bring them in the troop transport?
Because he is supposed to distract the Horde whilst they infiltrate. They end up not in, because he's like, no matter what you see, focus on the mission. Because he knows that he is going to be the least relevant person in getting the mother boxes disabled. So he's like, I will get everyone, I will just cause chaos. I'll take down the shield, I'll divert the parademons, you guys infiltrate, and don't come for me if you see anything bad, you know? They end up coming for him because they're a team. But I can see it, you know? I understand why he dropped them off instead of just saying, wait here, I'll do everything else.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, in that final fight, he's actually doing stuff still. He's like, he's covering the Flash out while the Flash is running around. He's making sure no one's shooting at him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's doing things.
He is. He's being a support character.
Yes. The action scene with Wonder Woman at the start in the bank is much better.
Much better.
The villains of that little sequence are insane.
Stannis Baratheon?
But Stannis Baratheon. Is that Stannis? That's not Stannis Baratheon.
That's Stannis Baratheon, yeah. No, sorry.
Is it? I guess it.
Yes, it is Stannis. No, yes, it is. Sorry. No, it's not. It's.
Make up your mind.
It's. Oh, it is a Game of Thrones character.
I don't think it's Stannis Baratheon, though.
Oh, it's. Oh, they look really alike. Hold on. I can't.
Google's coming out, guys.
Yeah,
Google is here.
Hold on. He's fucking Bolton. Ramsay Bolton's dad.
Yes. Okay, you're right. Yes.
Yes, he's
similar vibes to Stannis Baratheon.
Like very sort of one note. Roose Bolton. He's the Lannisters send their regards, man.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we can cut 2/3 of this. But let's just start here. He's Roose Bolton in Game of Thrones.
He is Roose Bolton in Game of Thrones. He's not Stannis Baratheon. Yes. His plan is it's like a suicide mission, I guess.
Yes. He's like a suicide bomber that's gonna.
It's got nothing to do with the rest of the movie. It's just to introduce Wonder Woman.
It's just a Wonder Woman cold open.
Yeah. Also, they kind of like add a part to Wonder Woman's theme in this cut, where it's like you've got the that part, right? But also, she has like the musical sting of this movie, which is just like these like women yelling, like the Halo soundtrack.
Yes, I think in the subtitles they're called like ethereal chants.
Right. Okay.
So on this, for the Justice League, they just got Danny Elfman to do a bunch of like old music being brought back and some generic new stuff. For this, Zack Snyder brought back Hans Zimmer, who done Batman vs Superman, and also Junkie XL, who done some of the music remix stuff for Batman vs Superman. But in this, a lot of the Junkie XL stuff comes out a lot more because it's a bit more kind of like a dubsteppy play on the Hans Zimmer music.
Yeah.
And I love it actually. So I have in my notes a few dramatic rock music moments, and that's a lot of good stuff. It's called The Lion Did Roar, you know?
There's parts of that I'm not a big fan of. Like when the electric guitars come in, I'm like, this feels a bit out of place for the rest of the movie.
It's very Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But the Wonder Woman theme I always enjoy. So
yes, that's a very good theme. They knocked it out of the park with that, didn't they?
Coming from 1984 back this, it's like, oh thank God, Wonder Woman is still cool.
Wonder Woman's still a good character.
I still think the shipping between her and Bruce Wayne is weird. They have that little scene where they both touch the mouse. It's like, oh, sparks are flying, and it's like, I don't feel it.
I think that was something that Zack Snyder wanted to work towards with like another film. There isn't really place for it in this film, but they're still like planting the seed for a future payoff because they definitely have it in Batman vs Superman. And I think there's more of it in Batman vs Superman than there is in this, but you're going to see some seeds in this that just don't go anywhere. A bit like Mera being British, you know?
it's very. I didn't notice it before because we hadn't done Aquaman yet, but now rewatching this, cause what is this accent you're doing, Amber Heard? Where are you?
Yeah, and even like for the stuff he filmed during COVID with Amber Heard, she's still British. You know, he's like, I don't care what Aquaman done in 2018. This is my vision. You know, I don't care what they went against. You're coming back and you're doing it the way I want you to do it.
There is a line when Wonder Woman is fighting Steppenwolf where it's like, your mother begged for mercy, and it's like, is Steppenwolf just lying there because we know that her mother is fine?
Yeah, Steppenwolf's just lying.
He's just, okay.
He's just trying to, like, anger her. Because even Wonder Woman calls it out. She's like, you're a liar, you know?
There's also the part earlier when they're in the abandoned islands between Gotham City.
Stryker's Island, yes.
Stryker's Island, yeah. Where she's like, as long as we work together, and then she immediately goes it solo. So, good teamwork.
Yeah, well, like you say, Barry calls it out. Barry knows that they're...
Barry lampshades it, so it's fine, I guess.
It's fine, it's okay, yeah. But that's the point, Kel. That's the halfway point where they get their ass beat. It's like when Loki tears up the aircraft carrier in Avengers.
But what Wonder Woman does feel less nerfed in this than she did in Justice League.
As I said earlier, I think all the characters feel less nerfed because the cheap way to make Superman stand out is to nerf everyone else. And this, everyone feels powerful, you know?
But other than that, I don't know, Wonder Woman doesn't have as much of an arc in this movie, I would say.
No, she doesn't. I think the film sort of plays with the future for the character. Like, she's thinking about going back to the Mascara, because this is all made without Wonder Woman 1984 being a thing.
She goes Tomb Raider for a second there.
She does. I have my notes. Thank God she didn't break a heel when she done that drop. Because I totally buy she could make that fall, right? Perfectly. But those heels aren't special Amazonian heels.
I mean, they could be.
They could be. I just highly doubt it, frankly.
Maybe this universe also has that guy from She-Hulk who does costumes for superheroes.
Possibly. But yeah, I think Wonder Woman does sort of have but I think that's because they're just coming off of her film, and they're just sort of, you know, let's give some other characters, because they're spending so much time with Aquaman, Cyborg, who have not had their own outings yet. You know?
Where you put that stuff, they made the right choice there, because like you don't need to reestablish all Wonder Woman stuff. We just watch Wonder Woman. Yeah,
exactly, right. It came out the same year from the original artist's intention.
That arrow, though, they sure spend a lot of time on that arrow.
They do. In my notes, that's another scene a bit like the Martian Manhunter reveal, where I'm like, this is the one scene I'm like, just speed up a bit. This is a lovely speech that the Queen of the Mascara is given, but move things along. Like, it's not that interesting, you know?
We don't need to see every single second of the arrow in flight.
Yeah, exactly, right? Of the arrow in flight, of them presenting the arrow, of her giving a speech to Amazonians that don't matter before firing the arrow.
Also, like, Diana just walks up to that arson scene of a historical building.
There's two police officers in the background.
Is there? I missed that. No one like has got that arrow for evidence or anything.
Yeah, the establishing shot is of like it being cordoned off with two police at the edge of the cordon, and she's somehow already behind the cordon, like with the camera and her hiding behind a wall with them in the background. You know, it's a nothing.
Not to add more scenes, but you could have had a scene where she's like, "Oh, I'm an expert from."
She has psychic paper
here to analyze it or whatever.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm here from
the loop. She doesn't use psychic. She is an expert.
Yeah, she absolutely is an expert. Yeah.
But yeah, and then she inserts the arrow into the exposition room.
Yes, which I put in my notes that I thought that was quite strange, but I also immediately justified it to myself, being like, well, this alert should surely, because the only people that are going to understand the alert are the people who are aware of the threat, and the people that are aware of the threat don't need an exposition room. But maybe when it was conceived, because human lifespans were fairly short relative to Amazonians and Atlanteans, they thought, well, we need a briefing pack, you know, and we can't staple like a booklet, a leaflet onto this flaming arrow. So we'll just have a little room down there just in case men need a refresher.
Well, the Lands of Men still just bury it in the woods in this cut, which is still funny.
That's still funny, yeah.
But this time we get the revelation that those pesky Nazis found it, Nathan.
Those pesky Nazis did find it.
It's always the Nazis.
That felt like a very expensive scene for like 20 seconds or less of footage.
Yeah. And it's you cut it. You don't need to know the Nazis found it. It's fine.
You could just mention it. You don't need to actually film it.
Let's talk about Aquaman, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk about Aquaman.
Coming back to this from Aquaman, all of the undersea stuff looks not nearly as magical and beautiful as it does in Aquaman.
Yeah, James Wan certainly had like a direction he wanted to take this in. But frankly, I'm like fine with them going to like an old temple that's like not part of the Atlantis cityscape. They can still have Coruscant cities further into their kingdom.
Yeah, it's just like all of the underwater shots in Aquaman are this gorgeous, like, fantastical realm of like bioluminescence and all the other stuff, and this is all just sort of dark and wet.
I think also they weren't sure how they were going to film all the underwater discussions, because I don't think in Aquaman they use any hydrokinesis bubbles.
No.
You know?
Because why would they? They can talk underwater.
Yeah. They also seem to not use the only highborns can live above water in this, because
yes, I noticed that too.
Drags the soldiers above ground and they seem fine. Maybe they're highborn soldiers.
And they have a little scene where he uses like a crab to...
I like his little mind
spider.
drone, because he uses it on the human hostages later on, and the people that literally don't know anything. It's just sort of vague pixels that aren't quite sure what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with...
I mean, the scene where he drags an Amazonian... an Atlantean up and gets that knowledge of it, cut it. You don't need that scene.
Yeah, you absolutely don't need it. I completely agree. I'm fine with the contradiction, though, that highborns are the only people that can live above water, because we didn't know that when this film was made.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
I will say, I think I love this look for Willem Dafoe with the long raggedy hair. I think it's all, he looks amazing.
It's better than the man bun.
I think I think that design is better. I think the design for Mira is much worse than it was in Aquaman.
I actually can't really remember it in this film versus Aquaman, but I suppose at the same time I also forgot in Justice League that he's not wearing the same armour he wears in Aquaman as well.
Yeah, you just don't pay attention to this stuff. Her outfit, she has like in Aquaman, her hair is much more obviously red.
Yes,
and
that's just colour correction.
Like she has a much bluer kind of catsuit looking outfit. And
is it the same outfit, just coloured differently, or is it literally a different fit?
No, it's completely different.
Right, okay.
In this, she has like a warrior tiara and armor on and all that.
I'm fine with the armoured look, you know.
I prefer colour, Nathan, as we know.
You can have colourful armour.
I feel like the outfit in Aquaman was more relevant to her role as more of a sorcerer than as a warrior.
Yeah, well, I mean, Zack Snyder loves his ancient warriors, you know.
Yeah, well, the scene where she uses water kinesis to pull the water out of his face is pretty fucking metal. I can't deny that.
Yeah, right? I love that when he's like just making a beeline for the mother box and she opens up a water, like an air bubble in the middle of his flight, and he just falls and hits the ground, you know?
Yeah.
Because the ocean's just separated between them. Terrific little moment there. I think that fight, I have in my notes here, it was a short and sweet fight, but really impactful. Like, it's a memorable moment in the film. Mera isn't in the film very much, because why would she be? But I think she's very memorable in this film. I think all her moments are really good.
Because once again, it's crazy that we're doing this before Aquaman.
Yes. Aquaman, technically, apart from the highborn water breathing stuff, doesn't really contradict this film much, because, you know,
no,
Aquaman still did the
apart from like the characterization of Arthur.
Yeah, exactly. He's not a surfer dude at all in this film. At the end, he's like, I need to go speak to my father, and Willem Dafoe and Mera just take him back to Iceland. Mm-hmm. And he gets the truck and drives away. You know, like, they didn't know he was going to be so Maori in Aquaman at this point.
Yeah, the Aquaman movie is definitely more of a follow-on from Justice League than it is from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I will say, I prefer the Surfer Bro version of Aquaman. I think Jason Momoa is charismatic and you should let him have fun.
I agree.
He still has some moments in this, like when he surfs a dead body to the ground through the sky.
Yep. When
Cyborg
saves him from the fall, he says, "My man," I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Does he say dress like a bat? I dig it in this.
No, he does say the thing about dressing like a bat, but I don't think he says that part.
Yeah.
I don't know. What... The thing with Aquaman, and it's the same problem as the Justice League, is once you get to the finale, there's no water, so he can't do half of his Aquaman stuff.
Yeah, he just becomes
which I guess is
man with
it's like a general problem with Aquaman and the Justice League in general, is that most of the time they're not doing underwater stuff.
Yeah, there is a moment where he hits Steppenwolf with his trident, and it creates some sort of shockwave that I think is vaguely suggested to be like a water shockwave, but that's it.
Yeah. It's the common Aquaman problem, and I don't know how you write around that other than having like there be like a random lake
nearby
where the bad guys are,
or he summons like a water
yeah.
army, like a ghost army, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I suppose so. So I mean, I agree, but I presume the same as you, will be fairly sympathetic to the writers in that one aspect for this fight.
Yeah. Because otherwise he's basically just like a boy version of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, exactly. I like that they did have some character moments with Wonder Woman and Aquaman in this film where they talk about Atlanteans and Amazonians. You know, they went to war once, and this is probably the first time either of their two species have interacted in centuries. And like Aquaman's like, well, I don't really like my people very much. You know, you get stuff. You know, you get moments, which is also fairly consistent for the follow-on film of Aquaman, where he still doesn't like his people. Like. There were threads planted in the Justice League film, both versions that lead to him sort of being an outcast of society. Is Willem Dafoe in the Justice League at all?
No, he's not.
No, not at all, yeah.
Which, why, I can't believe that now knowing that he was originally in the film, why would you cut Willem Dafoe? How dare you, quite frankly?
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly.
You've got Willem Dafoe in your movie and you're just going to cut him out?
Yeah, well, okay, as you've been saying a lot, you're advocating for hammering stuff out this film to keep us in a comfortable runtime, you know? I think had this film been cut into a theatrical version, it still would have been nearer 3 hours, you know?
Yeah, probably.
Because there was a weird mandate for this where it had to come in at 2 hours to get more showings, which is what studios do a lot. I'm not necessarily arguing against that as a principle, but it does have...
Yeah, you don't get away with that unless you're an Avengers Endgame. Then you can go over that limit.
Yeah, or if you're like a Dune or something, like you're a science fiction spectacle or Oppenheimer, you know? But I think Warner Brothers kind of, that by the time of Justice League, were just tacking shit up.
Well, like... We all know that Warner Brothers, they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing. So
well, let's give James Gunn all the runway possible.
I mean, I'm talking about the higher ups they're still doing just total nonsense. Did you see all the stuff with Adult Swim recently?
I haven't. I'm completely oblivious.
Any game that was produced by Adult Swim on Steam is being removed by Warner Brothers because they don't want to keep paying the licensing fees.
I didn't know.
So it's like 53 games that are just gone forever.
Oh, okay. I did not know anything about this. That's awful. This probably plays into your
bad,
video game preservation video.
Yeah, it's just I'm now informed on things like that because I made that video.
Yeah, that's horrific.
Yeah, good old Warner Brothers.
I mean, that's why they're like not releasing films for tax breaks, like their Looney Tunes Wile E. Coyote Acme movie and Batgirl. You know, I do have in my notes here that I forgot J.K. Simmons was Jim Gordon in this universe, and it's a shame we'll never see Batgirl, which is a film with him in it as Jim Gordon and Michael Keaton as Batman. Like,
yeah, how does that work? Who knows? We'll never know.
Well, it's because it's set post-Flash and it's supposed to be the big multiversal reset, and at that time George Clooney wasn't coming back because that was filmed before James Gunn made some notes. Like, I understand how it works. It's just, how do you not release this film, you know? Because Warner Brothers are money-hungry bastards, Kyle, that's how. Even this Snyder Cut was only produced because they needed content and they had a large film in their archives just sitting around not doing anything.
It is crazy that this got released, even still.
I think if it wasn't for the pandemic, we never would have got it.
One of the most wild things that's happened in Hollywood, in my opinion, is that this got a release.
There was a head of Warner Brothers Discovery at the time, back when they were still under AT&T, who was the person that lobbied for same day and date release for streaming and going to the cinema, because it was during COVID and everything. And I think he ended up losing his job, actually. It wasn't a great move. But he was one of those people that was like, let's put it all together, you know? And I think that because of the archive they had just sitting on a shelf, their need to push content, it was just a fortunate, you know, maelstrom of incidents that led to this film being allowed to be produced, because there was a big movement. I think maybe there was some anti-Joss Whedon thing going on as well, so that kind of helped them feel like maybe they were clearing their conscience, though the fact that it became a big investigation into Walter Hamada, which probably ultimately contributed to him leaving and in the rise of James Gunn, probably all not disconnected. The president of, I believe, HBO Max at the time was, and Warner Brothers as a whole, I believe, was the man who, and like I say, he got fired because he was going for the day and date release stuff. If it wasn't for him, I think he is the architect of greenlighting this project. It's just a shame that we would never got it in theatres. I don't think this would have ever had a long theatrical run, but a couple fan nights in an IMAX screen, like maybe one in each city, I'd have showed up. I went to a triple bill of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies when Beyond came out, Kyle. I'm insane, you know?
You have to... Okay. I have a question about this. Do you... obviously, I know your answer, but... do you think from a business perspective, releasing this was actually a good idea? Obviously, from like a consumer perspective, you would think it's a good idea because you like it.
Yes.
But from a business perspective, this is a real negotiating with terrorists moment right here.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think that at the time, this was not negotiating with terrorists. I think this was a good freedom fighter group that became terrorists. This was our brave brothers in the Mujahideen, a la, Rambo. Remember, Justice League already cost, I believe, upwards of like 300 million because of all the reshoots and the mustache,
ridiculously
gate.
expensive.
Yeah,
yes.
mustache gate and everything. And then, you know how much money Zack Snyder got to finish this?
A significant amount.
He got an additional $70 million.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how many people this brought to HBO Max. I know it made me subscribe to, because at the time I wasn't a subscriber to Now TV, which was the only way to watch it in the UK because it was going through Now TV and Sky Cinema, which will definitely play towards their profits. Like, those companies Sky works with HBO a lot. I think it's basically just their British front,
Yeah.
So globally, there was definitely legitimate revenue streams coming in for it.
But 70 million question mark?
I think
that's the issue with all streaming is there's no way to know. There's just no way to know.
No way for us as consumers to know. The business probably knows if they saw a spike in its subscribers as a result of the film's release, That's why they always drop successful shows because, like in Netflix, because, it's not driving more subscribers, Everyone that's going to watch this show has already subscribed. We'll make something new that will get different people to join us, It's all about growth. I think that in terms of its 70 million...
hitting those boxes,
Yeah, in terms of its 70 million, I think it probably did make a success, but did it clear the overall Justice League as a project, including the original theatrical release? All you've done is just inflate the budget. And I think Justice League as a whole, the entire project, probably still a big loss, actually. I think this probably just got them good PR.
Yeah, like when you factor in marketing and all that stuff. Yeah.
If you just accept that they sank the cost of Justice League back in 2017, and then during a pandemic where you can't release anything, if this was something that would help float them for the year, not even the year, for the next 9 months or something during COVID, it probably was a success, actually, like in very isolated circumstances that ordinarily would be seen as a critical failure. But when your other option is to produce nothing and make nothing, it probably did work out for them, actually, on like a small scale that only works under pandemic conditions where no one can go outside. Like, literally the perfect...
It's a real perfect storm situation.
The perfect storm, right? This will probably never happen again until we're in another pandemic. I know sometimes, like 30 years later, you do get other... Like, you got Superman 2, and then you got the Donner cut, because Richard Donner was able to do... Like, director's cuts are things,
One of these days we'll get that air cut, you'll see.
Listen, I would love to see that. I genuinely would, right? Because
so would I, obviously. It would be fascinating.
It would be fascinating. I think that if the air cut had such a big movement around it during COVID, I think there probably were a higher chance we'd get it. But no one cared because, Air didn't have the cult of personality that he seems to be sort of getting now. But that was only after the Snyder Cut, because like I made the joke about freedom fighters becoming terrorists. I am a genuine...
Hashtag sell the SnyderVerse to Netflix.
Exactly, right. I am a genuine believer that the movement for the Snyder Cut was a good thing, and I love that Zack Snyder, who arguably was messed over by Warner Brothers, got his vision. It was his wife and Christopher Nolan, who's a good friend, who told him, don't watch the theatrical version of this film because it will break you, I think we spoke about that when we'd done Justice League. I just can't dissuade myself of it. I'm a purporter of artist visions, even if it's bad. I respect a good swing. Not that I'm against studio intervention if it's needed, but I just, I'm happy this exists. It was also, there was a whole bunch of messaging around suicide prevention for this film as well, which is, poignant given the circumstances. I have in my notes that there's a "You're Not Alone" billboard outside Flash's house as he's leaving, which is probably fitting.
I didn't notice that.
The film's dedicated to his daughter. This raised a lot of money for his anti-suicide, charities. Like, there's just no way that this film could possibly be seen as a net
negative.
As a net negative, exactly, right? This film was just all sorts of positive energy around it. Yes, there was some maybe pushy people in it, but all movements do have those elements, and we never dissuade these movements for being bad things because of some, pushy pricks who definitely exist. I think a lot of the people who wanted the Snyder Cut to be a thing, and broadly the SnyderVerse, because I would have loved a continuation of this vision, right? I just would have, right? If the terrorists were to win and SnyderVerse were to go to Netflix, Kyle, I would probably, I would love to watch it, even if it became shit eventually, right? Just to give them the attempt to swing that bat, But I think all those good-meaning people are gone now, and like me, probably still talk about it, but are not daily obsessive.
They've moved on.
Yeah, they've moved on with their lives, The only people who are left are fanatics. They are, orc goblins made by Saruman the White. And maybe
the army of Uruk-hai march across the west.
Exactly, right? And, listen, there probably are good people out there that are still wanting it, that are just, they don't know anything about how business works. But, I can't speak to that whole movement, obviously, which is what this is going to kind of fall into. I'm very happy this exists, though.
This is all nice and lovely and great, and I understand suicide prevention charities very, very good. I can't dissuade that. I still didn't enjoy my time with it.
No, of course. At the end of the day, Kyle, this is still a product and an attempt at making some art, and not every product speaks to everyone,
No. Well, who have we got left on the team? Because we talked about Aquaman.
We haven't spoken about Flash. Yeah, Flash is the big one.
So they added scene to sort of introduce Flash, and I mean,
at the start
it's weird
of part
to say add a
3.
scene, but you understand what I mean when I say add a scene. I mean, it was in the original cut, and they cut it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
release.
This version has restored. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yes, that's what I mean when I say they add a scene. But Flash, he runs so fast he destroys his shoes, but not the rest of his clothes because they're cowards, Nathan.
It's the friction of him turning on the ground, Kyle, that disintegrates the shoes.
But surely, the speed would...
he would run through his clothes?
He would run through his clothes, yeah, because his clothes, they don't move as fast
I
as he
agree,
does.
Kyle, they are cowards, okay? There you go, you happy?
He's a little bit creepy where he touches that lady's face. Not that, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, he's putting her into the safe position, folding her arms and all that, and then he saves some hot dogs.
Yeah, sure. It's fun. I can't believe that guy was gonna eat that floor burger. Come on, dude, that burger's done. It doesn't matter. You dropped it on the floor of your truck. You're not eating that burger. 5-second rule, my dudes.
What do you think of just that whole sequence, Kyle? We got another song, another musical vignette. He's there for a job interview. We got a crazy truck driver, Kyle.
I was surprised how similar this version of Barry still is to the Justice League version.
Yeah.
He's still very quippy and weird.
Yeah,
he knows what brunch is, but he's still a snack hole.
I think he is supposed to be the insert on the team for the audience.
Yes. I was shocked that the snack hole line is a Snyder edition.
Yeah, when he's
I was
getting
so
into
sure.
Bruce Wayne's car.
I was so sure that was a Justice League thing.
They cut out the Mercedes insert in the Justice League.
It does. There's a lot of very heavy-handed product placement in this. The other one is Cyborg's little recording device. It very clearly says Sony in full picture right on the screen.
Absolutely. Maybe that's where you got some of that 70mm from, Kyle, to finish this.
Maybe so.
I love the whole slow-mo section though, where he runs out and he saves. I can't remember the character's name because I'm an awful person.
Love interest lady.
Lady who is in the Flash. They do bring her back, Kyle, even if she's completely cut from Justice League. I like that. I think they do a good job with the slow mo as a way of being fast. I think that obviously the X-Men movies set that kind of statement with slow mo and playing a song and someone moves around. Yeah. But I think that whereas the X-Men more have done it for funny creative moment, this is a really artsy wanky way of doing it.
I still think the way he runs looks really stupid. I know he's supposed to be ice skating or whatever, but it looks silly.
You would rather him just
his arms
go super
flapping
fast.
up and down.
Better than Wonder Woman in 1984, right?
Yes, it is obviously because that looked garbage. But
Yeah, you think this looks right?
Wonder Woman's fast moving, and this still looks awesome when she's blocking all the bullets from in front of all the hostages.
It's almost like
Great
she's
stuff.
throwing herself against a bouncy castle wall where she just sort of head first into a stop, you know? Yeah, absolutely terrific.
I also really like in this cut that when Superman does the turnaround thing, you can tell that Flash is faster than Superman. Like, Superman is still moving in slow motion within the thing, but just not as slow.
Yes, not as slow. Absolutely.
And I thought that was a really clever way of doing it. Like, Flash is faster, but he's still, like... But Superman is still really fast.
Yeah, Superman is still able to contend with it, you know?
Yes.
Which is quite a good way of showing different power dynamics where, like, how are these two really strong characters able to fight? Like, Hulk or Thanos, you know? Like, well, yes, but one is slightly more powerful, you know? And this is just a nice way of visualizing it.
And yeah, that sequence is extended. I don't know if it's better that Lois Lane is just coincidentally there instead of Batman bringing her there as the big guns. I don't know which of those is dumber writing. I can't decide.
I think this is better because the film sets up that this is where she goes to mourn Clark, you know, and this is her getting ready to move
I
on with her
suppose.
life.
I think it's silly that she finally, like, she's ready to move on, and then he's just back anyway, so it doesn't really matter that she was finally ready to move on.
I think it's to buy that shaken moment she has where he's resurrected, you know? Like, you see, there's a great scene where, like, you see 10 different emotions on her face in 2 seconds, and Amy Adams does a terrific job selling that. And it's because she spent all this time trying to move on. Now she's just back, and how does she grapple with that? Now, you could argue that the film doesn't really have her grapple with it. She's just happy he's back.
Yeah.
But
this movie doesn't know what to do with Lois Lane, really.
Yeah, that's definitely not. She's there to sort of bring Superman back down.
It's like Pepper Potts in the first Avengers movie. It's like she's here because she has to be, right?
Yeah, sure. But I would say that what did we cut for the Flash kill? We cut him drawing pirate mustaches on other prison guests.
Yes, that was cut. I mean, that's not cut, that was added.
Yeah, it was added.
Whatever.
I apologise. But for the Justice League. But it's not in this, and I'm fine with that, actually.
Let's just establish our language right here, right?
Right.
The original version is the Justice League because that's the one we saw first. So even though this was all shot before, this did come after, so we're just going to say that things were added and things were cut, okay? Yep. We're just going to say that.
That's fine. We're over an hour into this, but that's fine. Let's finally establishing our language. But yeah, I think Flash's end of the film moment where he saves everything because they lose. They are too slow.
Yes.
The unity
he
happens.
enters the Speed Force in the Oscars' most cheer-worthy moment in film history, Nathan.
It is. I clapped, Kyle. I agree. It was a great Oscar moment. No, listen, the Oscar thing is just bullshit because COVID. But
because Snyder fans are very, very obsessive.
This was the turn to this was the turn to terrorism. But that moment is
like it's a good moment. It's not better than Portals and Endgame, and you're crazy if you think otherwise.
I don't think so. I've never heard anyone make that claim. Actually, I'm not denying that people wouldn't have, but you know.
I mean, the Oscars make that claim, don't they?
Well, it came out in a different year. Why would?
No, Nathan, that wasn't just the most cheer-worthy moment of the year. That was the most cheer-worthy moment in cinema history.
That's bullshit.
That's what the Oscar was for.
No.
It was up against like Catching the Bullet in the Matrix and stuff like that.
Okay, well, Kyle, I disagree then, okay. You know what, Kyle? I'll say this. I disavow.
Okay,
it's
that's
silly,
good.
Right?
I'm glad we've got that on record.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. I just need to make the record straight here. But I think that's still a great moment, though. Let's talk about it in context of the film. The music really stands out. It's like a unique piece of music that never comes up before or later, with like the little guitar riff, and then he's sort of, got to do it now, Barry, got to do it fast, I got to heal. And he's just running and he's doing the monologue, and you can see like he's in like a star field of the galaxy because Earth is just gone. But everything is slowly forming around him, streetlights in the roads with every footstep he makes. Like, it's just a gorgeous sequence, Kyle. I think the fact that they cut this from the Justice League is insane. Like, it's just it's like any bit of original creativity was just ripped out of this film. Like, there's bits that scratch my head, why did they remove this? But removing this bit actually frustrates me. Like, it's just a terrific sequence. it sort of holds Barry's whole thing together.
There's parts that I would tone down for like a theatrical cut, like where you see like Cyborg reformed from bones and stuff like that. It's a bit graphic, and I can see why they would maybe cut that element of it. But overall, I do agree it's a very cool sequence, and it gives Flash something to do in the final fight
Instead
where he gets his hero moment.
Civilians.
Yes,
they cut this for a Russian family, Kyle.
That is insane. I'll grant with you that it's ridiculous, and the Russian family living there in the first place is dumb because it's not Chernobyl, but it's clearly supposed to be like
Chernobyl. Yeah,
it's supposed to make you think of Chernobyl, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Just spellbinding moment, Kyle. I could rant and rave about it. I agree with the Oscars. I take back my disavow, Kyle. No, I don't really, but it was for this film. I think it's just a fantastic moment. Like, it gets you. It really gets you. I think the emotion hits, the drama of the moment hits, but it's not over the top. But I think it's just perfect. It's pitch perfect, Kyle. I think that whole bit.
I enjoy that too, because it's Flash gets his heroic moment, and then it immediately transitions into now it's Cyborg's turn to have his heroic moment inside like the thing when he's talking to
that whole sequence is just well paced, and just everything just flows.
Yes,
It's like an extended version of like in the Avengers movie where they do the slow-mo shot of all 6 heroes, but in that one slow-mo pan around, every hero gets a little moment where the camera sort of is more focused on them doing a thing, but it's for a full extended point of a film, you know?
Yeah. Look, I think the last act of this movie overall is good. I don't have many issues. I do think it's funny that they decapitate Steppenwolf. I think it's hilarious. But I mean, my major problem is, of course, the black suit, which I despise.
Well, Kel,
black Superman suit.
Are we winding down on Flash? Do we want to move on to Superman?
Is there anything else to say about Flash? I think we covered most of it.
He got hot dogs for the puppies, Kyle.
He got hot dogs for the puppies.
He's doing yapping. He's got his resume. You know, and he's talking about how it's French.
He's still doing quips. He's like, oh my goodness, it's the bat signal, all that stuff. It's still in the movie.
I will say, I don't understand how he is trying to pay for his tuition, and he has all of this in a rail yard.
He stole it, right?
Did he? Okay, sure. I didn't.
I mean, that just has to be the explanation. He just has to have stolen it.
He has a criminal. He should be part of the Suicide Squad.
I guess he has all this stuff set up, so I assume he is like using that to like monitor crime radios and stuff and doing superhero stuff.
Possibly. There's no K-pop on the TV anymore, is there?
Was there K-pop in the original?
Yeah,
I missed that.
Sure, there was K-pop in the Justice League, yeah. But yeah, so if we're done with the Flash, why don't we move on to Clark Kent?
To big Superman himself.
Big himself, yeah.
He has a normal-looking face. It's amazing.
No mustache. Were you sort of looking at it going, wow, look how good his jawline looks without the mustache lower half?
I mean, listen, Henry Cavill, he's a very handsome man. I will not dispute that.
Gorgeous man, yeah, absolutely. Greek gods of old. I love him in Argyle. It's a separate topic.
Even with his terrible haircut.
Right at the end, Kyle. No, he looks great in Argyle with his little spiky hair.
Okay. I still think, even in this cut, the decision to bring back Superman is a bit abrupt.
It's slightly more abrupt in this film.
Yes, actually, I agree. It is more abrupt because in the Justice League, they actually have a debate about it.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, they're all basically on board immediately.
And also, for a lot of the film, Batman is sort of ranting and raving about his grief-stricken for killing Superman. Mm-hmm. Like, he's sort of doing this. The Justice League does make a better point at trying to make amends for the death of Superman. There's one scene between Alfred and Batman where Alfred's like, why are you doing this? I quite enjoy it when, like, I think I mentioned in Birds of Prey about how the film doesn't let anything breathe. I think this film does a lot of letting their scenes breathe.
I mean, yes, this film does a lot of letting scenes breathe. I won't disagree with you on that. It's 4 hours long, Nathan.
Yes, absolutely right. But that would just come from cutting the scenes entirely. But even in the scenes that this film does include, like, I really enjoy Bruce and Alfred just having a chat. I should say, I like when Bruce introduces Alfred to the team and he says, I work for him. Little bits, you know?
Yeah, sure.
But Alfred tries to talk Batman out, like, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to be a god? You know, this isn't, you don't need to do this. This could have ramifications that we couldn't possibly conceive of. And earlier on in the film, Bruce told Diana.
Yeah, even
about
though
his
it works
vision
in the
of
movie, I
Barry
still
Allen.
think it's a bad idea. If I was there, I would have been like, guys, I don't think we should do this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will concede that Justice League does a slightly better job debating the issue and having, Barry talking about Pet Cemetery. That's a film I know, There is more of a discussion about it. I think people broadly seem more united in this film to do it, because Barry's like, I'm thinking it, we're all thinking it, and then Cyborg uses his hologram head to create a Superman hologram. But I do think the film still does put some sort of token discussion down about why are you doing it, and I think Alfred's quite a good person to do it, because he himself
We're
is not
doing it
superpowered.
because Superman is Jesus.
He is Jesus.
Is
Everyone's
what we're
Jesus.
doing.
So is the Joker.
I don't know why Joker gets to look like Jesus. I don't know if that's a parody or what. I have no fucking clue what's going on in any of those scenes.
He's a religious
But-
figure to a different segment of society, Kyle. It's to
Yeah, I
represent
guess so.
everyone.
I mean, but we have Superman. He goes out to the sun and does his Jesus pose. It's very Zack Snyder.
So why don't we
is what
talk
it is.
about... I kind of want to mention here the scene just before he takes off, where we get Jor-El and Jonathan Kent, Pa Kent.
Yep.
They're both dialogue lines of the previous two films, speaking to him about who he's supposed to be,
Yes.
who he can be, what he means to society. Jonathan Kent historically saying how you should suppress your powers, and now he's saying it's time. We're here. This is the moment. This is it. And the music swells.
This is the moment after you've already been Superman for several years.
Kyle, why are you ruining it? It's great. It's a terrific little moment, because this is his rebirth. This is him returning. Because when he comes back, he's like, they brought me back for a reason. I need to find out why they want me back, right? And he gets the suit on. He goes to see Alfred. But I just he's like, now it's time, son. Terrific. The father he never knew and the father he did know, and they both had different ideas of what Superman could be and can be. They're both coming together. The influences on his
And
life.
this equals him getting his goth era suit, does it?
I mean, in the comics, it's supposed to be a healing suit, right? Maybe he's because itchy, Kyle. It's itchy coming back from the death,
Can't believe they cut that pivotal line.
And he comes back, and I love the Hans Zimmer flight theme. As I mentioned in Man of Steel, I think it's just terrific, and they bring it back here, and he leaps up through the Kryptonian ship, and he goes to see Alfred. He doesn't go to save the day. He goes to see Alfred for a briefing pack.
Well, yeah, he needs a briefing, because for some reason Alfred isn't running the radios on this mission. He's just sitting around drinking whiskey or whatever.
There's only so much he can do. Batman doesn't have a drone fleet on standby that Alfred can operate. Maybe he should.
Yeah, but he can still be over the comms.
The film's got so much going on already. What's Alfred supposed to do over the comms? Go, oh, watch your back, Master Bruce.
It's still crazy to me that Robin canonically existed in this universe, because
yeah.
But
remember, this is all because this is a Batman 20 years down the line.
Yeah, I know.
We don't really get old man Batman in these films typically. And I like the artist swing. I like an unconventional look at these characters who we, thankfully, especially in Batman's case, are graced with many different incarnations.
And one day we'll get Robin in a movie again, and it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, it'll be a good day. Yeah. The second Superman is resurrected, we skipped over this because the Kryptonian computer says these actions may be irreversible, and then we get that flashpoint where Flash briefly time travels to set up that he can do it later in the film. He goes back a second to hit the electricity charge.
And Cyborg, I think, sees a flash of the future this time.
Yes, possibly. I
think the way it's edited, I think it is Cyborg who sees it.
I thought it was just for the audience, but yeah, okay. Earth is destroyed. Everything's in ruins and rubble. Superman is flying over a destroyed Justice League building with a very comic book looking logo, a very traditional Green Lantern lying on the ground. He's holding a skeleton corpse in the Batcave because you see Robin's suit and light in the background with Darkseid coming over him.
Wonder Woman is
dead.
Getting a Viking funeral.
Yeah, and all the Amazonians
and Darkseid is there.
I think all the Amazonian legions have been brought to heel at this point.
I see.
Darkseid is having in the army, but they're forced fighters. And Darkseid attends the funeral, and so Lois is dead. This is what turns him evil. I don't really know how. Superman blames Batman for the death of Lois Lane, but I'm not quite. This would be something that would be fleshed out, Kyle, in the film itself.
And then I believe You're a big fan of the Injustice storyline. I've never actually played the games, so I
mean,
don't know. But I believe in the
fighting
original,
games,
it's Joker's fault, right?
Yeah, it's Joker. Joker sets off a nuke in Metropolis.
Right. Okay.
With the whole team where they're fighting Doomsday, actually, funnily enough. And it's like a distraction. Doomsday is like a distraction for Joker's nuke.
Because it's like Joker's bored with Batman and decides to fuck with Superman instead.
Yeah, basically. Because he thinks that the biggest fuck over you could have for Batman is having the most powerful person on Earth become a villain. You know, how do you do with
Okay,
that,
so
Batman?
It's still to mess with Batman.
It's still to mess with Batman, yeah.
Okay, good.
Exactly,
good stuff.
right? And Joker's in custody, and Superman shows up in the prison, and
I mean, it's basically the same as the scene in Age of Ultron, where Iron Man sees all the Avengers dead.
kind of, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I just think, just terrific moment in Batman, Superman hovering over the Justice League holding Batman's cowl, which I think is supposed to be less literal, because later on in the film we can clearly see that Batman still has his cowl as some sort of out of order resistance that we also see in Batman vs Superman, where he's got the Joker card. We'll get to the nightmare stuff at the end, Kyle, I think. He's got his coloured outfit back on Superman in those nightmare sequences, because I do
because when he's evil he has his coloured suit. Question mark.
No, I think that, like, 'cause the colours are, yes, in filmmaking terms, are supposed to be symbolic of allegiance. I get that, but the black suit is just supposed to be a bit of comic book service. I actually don't think it matters that much. I just think he looks great.
It's just there because Zack Snyder thinks it looks cool. It doesn't make any sense. I don't like it.
Oh, he's supposed
Superman
to have,
should
like,
be colourful. When you see him in the lineup and he's got the same colours as Batman, it just looks silly.
He's supposed to have the coloured suit, obviously. I think they shot it with colour because the studio wouldn't let him film it with the black and white suit, because the studio wanted coloured outfit, you know, but he always wanted, because Henry Cavill shared an image way back in like 2016 of the black suit texture on his Instagram, right? This was all like a plan. This wasn't some bullshit thing he's added in for the Snyder Cut. He always wanted the black suit. It's just a bit of comic book service, really, for this film. I mean, how many different outfits does Iron Man fly through, you know? Like, I'm fine with another take on the outfit. He would go back to the coloured outfit in Justice League Part 2, and then whenever we get the Nightmare sequence, it would make no sense for him to be wearing black anyway, you know?
The thing that really didn't make sense to me is they do the classic Superman shot of him opening up the shirt and the Superman logo's underneath.
And it's still black.
And it's still black, and it just looks wrong in black. That shot should have been in colour.
I will agree with you there. There we go. See, a little bit of consensus again. But I'm fine with it being black for the end. I like when he shows up and the axe comes down on his shoulder, you know, and he just frosts it all, which is all kind of Justice League stuff, but it looks nicer here, you know. Because I like Steppenwolf's design better. I think it's a more interesting fight, you know, when he just the punch and the punch and the punch, and you see the kinetic air ripples come off of him. So what we got, we have Wonder Woman's bracers, which create sort of heat auras, heat blowback, hydrokinesis from Aquaman's trident, and then we get just kinetic shockwaves from Superman punching stuff, you know?
Yes.
Terrific, Kyle. Absolutely tremendous. I'm just a fan. I think this film just oozes visuals.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Like, I already said that I like the last act, but that doesn't make up for most of the film being quite boring.
I just don't think it's boring at all. We can't really go through the plot too much of this film, because broadly speaking, the arc of the film is the same as Justice League, you know? But that's probably why, listener, we haven't really done a good job breaking down the arc of the film, because Mother Box's
if you're this deep
flashbacks,
into the podcast, you don't care.
Yeah, you've seen Justice League. You've seen our Justice League episode.
You've either seen it or you just don't care, then you just want to hear us talk, and that's fine too.
That is fine too, yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the nightmare stuff, shall we? Oh, they do the scene with Lex Luthor again, but you mentioned to me that they reshot that for this movie for no reason at all.
Yeah, so in the Justice League, they mentioned that, you know, let's make a league of our own, you know?
Yes.
That's all kind of in Justice League stuff.
Like the women's baseball movie, yes.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's just because I think they wanted to make an injust, like a Sinister Six kind of thing. I think they wanted to race Sony to a Sinister Six film. With like an inversion.
Oh yeah, that's a race you want to win for sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as we've established, Warner Brothers don't make smart moves. But in reality, this original thing is to set up Ben Affleck's Batman film that he was still going to write, direct, and star in. Ben Affleck, even at 2016, I think, or 2017, released a little test footage on his Twitter of Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke. It's just some footage of him walking towards the camera but it is like, this is what this was for, you know, why are you hunting the bat pro bono for me, you know, and he says, oh, it's personal, you know, I've got a score to settle. All that was all track work for the Batman movie that was going to be called The Batman, that obviously then became the Matt Reeves thing, because even Ben Affleck put out a tweet when Matt Reeves was announced to direct his own version of the Batman. He said, welcome to the Bat family, you know. This has all been multiple different iterations. You know, the Matt Reeves Batman at one point was supposed to be a DCEU project, and it ended up just not being, you know, which is fine, perfectly fine. You know, I love that film. We'll get there, I suppose.
We'll get to it. We're pretty close to that.
Yeah,
actually,
we are pretty close to that. But obviously not the Ben Affleck property. But this is the original this is the artist's original intentions. So we're going to pretend that this is what this is leading into. You know.
You know what? Fair dues for them to leaving all that stuff in the movie, even though they know it's not going to happen. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Exactly. You know, I'm fine with all this. And then we get the end of the movie in a desert wasteland highway, Kyle. It should have ended on Henry Cavill popping his shirt open. That should have been the end. And I think that is the end of Justice League, actually.
But instead we spend 5 minutes with the Joker where the camera can't focus on him because it makes it more artsy and dramatic.
Yeah, you're right.
And I still hate Jared Leto's the Joker. I just can't.
So it actually opens, I believe, on Deathstroke, because we just saw him on the yacht, and now he's all post-apocalyptic with a mohawk.
He's got his apocalypse. He's got apocalypse mohawk. Yeah.
And
he has a less high-tech eye patch.
Yeah. And Cyborg's wearing a cloak because his armor will just reflect off the sun and be spotted immediately.
Yeah.
The Flash has like a rhino horn on his helmet.
And he has like a CGI face.
Well, yeah, that's because he filmed that on set when they were filming Fantastic Beasts, and Zack Snyder Zack Snyder Skyped or Zoom called into the set of Fantastic Beasts, and they shot it on the Harry Potter set.
I see, okay.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff was all kind of done weirdly. Zack Snyder, I think, shot everyone separately. I don't think anyone was actually on set together.
I guess that's why Flash has no lines in that scene.
Yeah, exactly, right? And he got Amber Heard in to do the mayor stuff, and he's like, I will get him for what he did to Arthur, because we get a great, we never mentioned it in the previous flashback, where we get to see Darkseid's Zabi Omega beams, and it's killing people, and he's tried through Aquaman's dead in a combat fight with Darkseid, and Mera is now standing in for him in this quest to get to the time travel treadmill. It's
like an edgy fanfic.
It's Zack Snyder's intentions, Kyle. This is not fanfic. This is all based on original works, Kyle.
I mean, it's Zack Snyder's fanfic.
You could say any adaptation is a fanfic, Kyle. We've already discussed it.
I'm just saying it feels that way, is what I'm saying.
I mean, this is the new stuff that was shot. This wouldn't have been in the original Justice League.
No, of course not. It doesn't offend this movie at all.
I think the original stuff, though, with Darkseid attending Wonder Woman's funeral would have been in the original cut, because we're always hinting at the night.
Yeah, probably, but all of this stuff definitely wouldn't have been.
Yeah. I think that this would have been fine as a post-credit scene. The fact that it's the real end of the film is a bit weird. I think we could have had multiple mid- and post-credit scenes. That's fine. Other films have done it before.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is really long for a post-credit scene.
You know what? I'm fine with it. I don't mind, you know?
I mean, I mind because it sucks.
It doesn't suck, Kyle. I love it. You said in your notes, I bet Nathan's loving it, and I was loving it, Kyle. And they're having a discussion with Joker and Bat, because this is the last time we're seeing this incarnation of these characters, Kyle, and Batman and Joker never shared a bit of screen time together, you know? They're taking Joker with them because he has knowledge. Did you notice he's wearing like a SWAT vest of GCPD, and he's got lots of police badges on it? That's all the police officers he killed, Kyle.
Yeah, sure.
That's edgy, right?
Because it's very edgy.
And he says, "Au contraire, my little fish stick," speaking about Mera. Just crazy. Mera and Aquaman love interest in Warrior Princess, and the Joker sharing screen time. Like, it's just interesting. These like combinations of characters you wouldn't traditionally put together. And then Deathstroke's like, "You still happy you brought me along, Batman?" And they have that great chat where they say, you know, "I'm happy to discuss this with you, but a truce, Bruce," and he hands him the card that he has on his gun in Batman vs Superman. Like, Zack Snyder had a plan here, Kyle. He isn't just shooting at the hip here. He knew what he was doing. I'm sure
he has a plan. It's just not one I care to see, and I'm happy that it never happened, quite frankly.
Oh, okay.
Because then I'd have to watch it for this podcast.
That would have fulfilled me, Kyle. That would have made me very happy. And he says, you can rip up this card whenever you like and I'll be happy to discuss it with you, and Batman threatens to kill him. This is where he says, the fucking Kyle, he drops an F-bomb here.
Yes.
And when Harley Quinn was dying in my arms. Now, here's a fun part, Kyle. They asked Margot Robbie about this during the Suicide Squad press release, or press junket, right? And they said, do you know that Harley Quinn is dead in the SnyderVerse? And she clearly has no idea. And she has to give a very business-friendly, diplomatic answer, because at that point, maybe they weren't sure if they were rebooting all this and how much of this might have come back round again in continuity. And obviously, she doesn't know anything about the Snyder Cut. And she's like, oh, no, I didn't know that I'm dead, actually, but that's great for that film, I guess. Because she doesn't know that obviously it's just some nightmare post-credit tagline, like it means nothing.
Yeah, okay. I have to imagine that in whatever apocalypse movie this would be... This
is all reversed.
It would all be reversed, right? It would have to be.
Absolutely. But I just found her being asked a question is just something for clicks on YouTube. It's a good question, It's not actually a legitimate question. It's just a stupid one that gets people to watch. Because it sounds inflammatory because of how much we know Margot Robbie has power over the use of that character when she was involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, so...
Well, it does seem like in whatever apocalypse, this is a post-redemption arc Harley Quinn. So
yeah, she's maybe part of the Bat family. She's Oracle or something. She's sitting in the Batcave. Maybe that was Harley Quinn's skeleton that Superman was holding. No, because she died in
a fun twist.
She died in the arms of Batman when she lay dying in the arms of Batman.
Yes.
I want to see these things that are being alluded to, Kyle. What led to Harley Quinn bleeding out in Batman's arms when Darkseid's armies were invading? I want to see that kind of fall of reach. I feel like, this the end of everything and we're just on the back foot. And
I'm sure, Nathan, one day we'll get a tie-in comic that covers all this. That's usually what happens with this stuff.
I don't want that though, Kyle. I don't read the
Oh, you don't want a comic of the comic book characters, Nathan? Are you a fake fan?
I am a fake fan, Kyle. I want to see this live-action version, though, take place, right? I read the prequel novel to Rogue One, Kyle, and it was perfectly fine. But, I want this. I want this story to be completed. I am one of the terrorists. No. I find all this just sort of hypnotic. I just think, there's just such a great plan here that I would love to have seen. I would have liked to, because in the Injustice story, cause this isn't a true adaptation, the Justice League really does divide. The Flash and Green Lantern, they all are working with Superman. Diana is in a relationship with Superman, but she feels like she can never replace Lois Lane. You can always tell they're together, but Superman's still really angry about Lois, hence why he's a tyrant. And Darkseid really has nothing to do with that. It's the Injustice storyline is different, when I say I like the Injustice story, I generally like the idea of the Justice League divided. This doesn't seem like the Justice League is divided. It seems like Superman has killed some of them.
Yes.
And Batman has a plan to help undo everything.
My interpretation would be that he's being manipulated by Darkseid would be the ultimate revelation of what was ever going on in that movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we see the scene where he has, Darkseid puts his hand on his shoulder to comfort him.
Yeah, that's in the Batcave, yeah.
Yeah.
Darkseid in the Batcave, a crazy thing. When people talk about all the weird oddities of the Marvel movie, Rocket Raccoon and the Winter Soldier sharing dialogue, something that if you think of where that all began just seems crazy. Darkseid in the Batcave, these insane concepts that, yes, are from the comics, but to see them translated into a commercially successful film, insane, right? I know, as we've discussed, this isn't a commercially successful film, but this is where this all could have led if it were a success, And maybe a different version of it we will see with James Gunn. But I'm just sad, Kyle, and I just want to rant about this lost universe.
I understand. I understand. I don't agree. I understand you, though. Well, Nathan, I not to press us, but we did just hit the 2-hour mark on Audacity here.
Yeah, we did. We did.
And I think we're pretty much good to wrap this up, probably.
Yeah, we see the Dark Knight Returns tank at the end of the film. Everyone sort of...
it's 3 times the size, but...
I'm pretty sure in the Dark Knight Returns it was comically massive as well, was it not?
Maybe. I don't think it was that whatever.
It's fine. It's fair. It's fine. It doesn't matter, Kyle. I'm just yapping to the end of my notes to make sure I don't miss anything in case anyone goes, "Oh, you didn't bring up this." When Superman shows up at the end of that nightmare sequence and they all sort of get ready to do battle, the Joker just sort of sits in the car and just sort of laughs like a hyena because what is he gonna do? What are any of them gonna do?
Like a highly occult Bruce, maybe. Oh, Nathan, I forgot to mention, this is very important.
What?
How did Superman find Alfred? How did he find Bruce's lake house? He obviously used the phone book.
Yes, Kyle. Oh, I saw that in your notes as well. I forgot about that. Superman used the phone book. You're not wrong.
There we go.
That's
there
it.
We go. It's happened again.
It happened again. They simply can't not use the phone book in these films, Kyle. I agree. Right, everyone, thank you very much for listening to this bumper episode of Enter the SnyderVerse.
I'm calling it right now. This will be our longest episode if we are not going this long again.
Yes, absolutely. This was always gonna be our longest episode, Kyle. This was the magnum opus of this show, you know? Zack Snyder's Justice League. Thank you so much.
Still not as long as our review of Rise of Skywalker.
And nothing will be longer than that. But everyone, thank you so much for watching, and next week you will hear us talking about The Great Schism, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, because he was fired from Marvel. I'm sure we'll talk about it. Kyle,
we will definitely talk about
where
it.
can people find you online?
People can, of course, find me at Kyle the Scott. I would appreciate you watching my most recent video and leaving a like or whatever, because it's been a bit of a mess. And I would appreciate, I know no one listens to this podcast, but, you know, on the off chance that it happens, and you also don't, you know, hate me for disliking this movie, there's a lot of things going on. Just check out my YouTube channel. That's where I mainly am.
And of course, you can always find me at Nathan Tinney on all social medias, Hive, Threads, Instagram, Twitter. I also run the at Enter the DCEU Twitter account for this show. Maybe give us some love over there, because we certainly need it. Thank you all very much for listening, and you'll hear us next week for the next episode.